Good afternoon. Hey, what's up? This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. We've got the live cam up today for Deerfield, as you know. Most of you probably know this cam by heart. Probably got it on your favorites as far as your bookmark bar. I do. Just saw a couple kudas go by there too. Man, a lot of fish out there. Well, let's take a look at spot prices today, and I got two quotes for you. And these are important quotes, especially for newer folks that are stacking and that have, as I've been talking about, the reason we don't have to worry about gold and silver, and the reason that if you got into gold and silver to become an instant millionaire, you're in it for the wrong reasons, and the type of people that have those mentalities. That's what I was talking about yesterday. And many of you that watch my videos over the last few years know that this is a quote that I say frequently, which is, of course, the game is rigged. Don't let that stop you. If you don't play, you can't win. And that occurs to everything, even casinos, Las Vegas casinos, wherever you go to a casino in the world. The game is rigged. It's tilted in the favor of the house. We all know that. But if you don't play, you can't win. And that applies to, I think it applies to, just about everything in life now folks, that, from economies to elections to, I said it, yeah, to all kinds of things. It's rigged. It's all rigged. The media is rigged. Everything's rigged. But if you don't let that stop you, if you don't play, you can't win. And again, that means whether you're investing, that means whether you're trying to make a difference in the world. That means, of course, the news that you're getting as well is rigged. The media, the narrative that you receive. But don't let that get you disappointed. Go out and seek the truth. And again, this quote is very powerful to me. Another one that I saw when I was looking at this quote, or coming up for the visual for this quote, was this is by Ben Hogan. I thought this was pretty cool. I never played around when I didn't learn something new about the game. And if I'm correct, Ben Hogan is a golfer, if I remember correctly. But then again, I'm not a golfer, so I wouldn't know for sure. Either that or he's a card player, one or the other. But I suspect, if I remember correctly, Ben Hogan is a golfer. And this is very true for any professionals in their business or anybody that's doing anything for any length of time, is that you always learn something new about the game that you're involved with. And, silver and gold are a game. Silver, the markets that we use for our discovery for prices, the COMEX markets, the CRIMEX markets that I always rail on and talk about, as do others. That's the casino floor. That's a casino floor, and we all know that casinos are rigged to some degree. And of course, CME Group gets their cuts in the COMEX markets, Globex markets. They get their cut of all these trades, I'm sure. That's why they're multi-billion-dollar operation, casino floor like they are. But the issue again is about allowing manipulative whales to come in and dominate these markets, and that's exactly what they've done for years. And that's something that a lot of people are now learning more and more of. A lot of precious metals people out there go, "Well, it's rigged, man. I'm tired of dealing." Well, all markets are rigged. All markets are rigged. Everything in your life is rigged to some degree. From the morning, the time you wake up in the morning to the time you close your eyes, something's rigged in your day. And as I said, with politics for sure, with economics for sure, in your markets for sure. I don't know if there's any marketplaces out there that haven't been rigged, aren't rigged, or being rigged, or something like that as well. So just get used to it. But what we do know is history. We do know history of assets. What assets last a long time? What assets last for decades, much less hundreds of years and thousands of years? Very few. I guess you could talk about real estate. You could talk about gold. You could talk about silver. Have diamonds been around as a medium of exchange for 5,000 years? Yeah, I think certain gemstones have to some degree. Well. And other things in trade. Food, I guess you can consider really real money, because people trade their gold for food. You need food to survive. So they're commodities, more or less. There's certain commodities out there that have lasted for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, like gold and silver, that you're never going to wake up in the morning and say, well, it's just bankrupt, it's worth zero, So, especially gold and silver. Again, gold being in use as money for 5,000 plus years, it ain't going anywhere anytime soon as far as going to zero or going to worthlessness, despite what the crypto people said for a long time when cryptos were soaring. That's the end of gold. Everyone's never going to buy gold again. Well, ultimately gold and silver And silver, remember, these are manipulated markets. Silver far more manipulated than the gold markets right there, but no less, all these markets are manipulated to some degree. Like I said, the Dow is, the housing market, everything across the board. At what was I going to say? At 1852 and 22, these are, gold has held its own very well when you consider everything else has taken a real dump, including the Dow Jones, the S&P, and those are the darlings, as I always talk about. Even the housing market looks like it's starting to go downward because of interest rates going up, getting more costlier for first-time home buyers. So there's a whole bunch of things going on. But the inflation flag that we've been waving here for some time, I want to get into that as well. How inflation, a lot of people have expected inflation to double the price of silver, double the price of gold, and which is tough to look at because we've seen that there are commodities out there that have done very well in this environment. And then you look at your gold and silver, say, well, it hasn't done terribly, folks. Again, gold's held a very good level at this point. Silver is in that higher $22 or higher than $20 level. As I said, I don't think we're going to see sub $20 silver ever again. Well, crooked Crimex markets, you may see it in the paper prices, but in reality, you're not going to be able to buy silver at sub $20, real silver in any kind of real form. Well, all right, I was talking about markets being rigged, and if you don't play, you can't win. And if I was going to play in any market that I felt that even if it was rigged, I could still come out a winner, it'd be a market like gold and silver, where you physically can hold it in your hands, okay? Where you physically have it, and again, track record of 5,000 years. It's never going to go to zero. So there you go. Inflation, again, a couple things that, there's two articles. One was by Peter Schiff, and another one was by Jim Rickards, I think, that talks about giving up on gold, giving up on silver, and why haven't we seen higher rates, higher gold and silver prices because of the inflation specter. Well, I think Peter nailed it pretty damn good. And Jim Rickards also, I think, nailed it. And I think I'm attributing that correctly to him, that article, but we'll get there in a second. 1852 is the high right now. No, actually, 1856 was the high. I didn't see when that was. We'll look at the 24-hour chart. Currently 1852, 1853, and a low of 1837. So it did kind of get sub 1840. I'm curious when that happened. Probably last night in the overnight markets. We'll look in a moment here. Silver at 22.26. Again, sitting above that $22 mark. We did see a dip below that 22 mark, but again, silver building a nice base here at this $22 level. And it's the rinse and repeat factor, especially with the price of silver. We've seen a high at $27, and then we've seen a low at the high 20s. Okay, we never saw sub $20 silver, but we saw a low in the high 20s. And since then, we've drifted back up to that $22 mark where we've been, maybe high 21s, but $22 mark where we've been for a little while here. And now we're moving back. We're just moving back into that next up stage, folks. The next stage, and the question is the last high was 27 in silver, and we're sitting at 22. Are we going to see $27 again? Gosh, as an optimist, I'd like to say, yeah, we're going to see 27, and maybe even higher. That's a good possibility as well. I'm waiting for these collusive big commercial shorts to not buy back their short positions, or buy back their short positions at a much higher level. That's going to happen at some point. Will it happen in this next up leg we're going to see to $27? I'm not sure, but we are definitely in another up leg in precious metals, folks. I can tell you for sure. Unless this market completely collapses right here. If we see a collapse in the Dow Jones, S&P, NASDAQ, and we see a collapse in the housing market like we saw in 2008, it will bring down the CME prices on gold and silver. Will you be able to buy real gold and silver at sub $20, real silver at sub $20? No way. Premiums are going to be ridiculously high for the real stuff. 1,000-ounce bars, you're not even going to be able to buy it sub $20. Even, I don't care if the COMEX markets go sub 20 in the event of a collapse like this. You're just not going to be able to buy real silver for any kind of reasonable premium and delivery time. That's the only only way I see silver getting into the sub $20 level, and gold going into that sub $18 level if that happens, if we see a market collapse. But the reason I don't think we're seeing a market collapse in Dow Jones, S&P, and NASDAQ is because they're propping that market up with money. I believe that the Fed and the government, the federal government, under the plunge protection team, or something similar are pumping money into the stock and bond market to prevent it from taking a big shit, because that's the only thing they learned since 2008 is not to let these too big to fail and too big to jail guys collapse. So they're letting them slowly come down, slowly letting the air out of the balloon. But what does that mean for the average Joe? It just means that they're sucking more money out of your pocket. And what is gold and silver? Gold and silver is all about wealth preservation, all right? This is not wealth preservation right now. It's a way to make money. Again, be diversified. I'm not dissing stocks. I think there's a time, even though I believe they're highly manipulated and are currently being highly manipulated, as the man says back here, of course the game is rigged. Don't let that stop you. If you don't play, you can't win. And how do you win? You learn how the game is rigged, all right? And that's why I'm trying to share what I believe is how the game is rigged out there with you folks, and people like Ted Butler does, as well as gata.org right here talks about that all the time. But again, don't get discouraged. Just buy physical at these lower levels when you can. That's my opinion. And again, you know, I'm a physical dealer, so take that for what it's worth as well. So 22.26, platinum holding. You know, platinum's a bit strange because platinum did fall back into the lower $1,000 mark, where we were sitting, what, 1,050, 1,060, maybe even a bit higher a week or two ago. Palladium is sunk below that $2,000 level, but remember, these are industrial metals to some degree. If you think that not a lot of people invest in silver and gold, you think about how many less people invest in platinum and palladium, especially in the investment forms of bars and coins and stuff like that. It's very, very small. Let's take a look at the 24-hour chart, see what's going on here. And I've got about the same. We're in that 1850 level right here. Let's see where we've seen any monkey hammering. There's your slingshot here at the opening, 820. Gold takes a little hit down to that mid between 1845 and 1850, and then shoots back up, and where we've seen it kind of go up to almost a high of 1860. That was the 1858 mark we've seen. And then it's backing off here. So for all intents and purposes, just kind of hanging on to the levels that we've been at for a little while. I think it's a good, healthy sign, folks. Again, if you're in this to get rich quick, especially the last few years or the last for quite some time, you're in the wrong market. People can, and I've seen people make a ton of money in gold and silver markets. Remember, 2012 when silver rocketed up from that $20 mark, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 mark. There are people that cashed out and made a ton of money. J.P. Morgan, illegally, and most of us, and a lot of people that I know, in my opinion, illegal, because that's how J.P. Morgan made. Well, actually, they got busted for spoofing markets and doing all kinds of shit. But again, too big jail, too big to fail. But I've seen legit retail people make tons of money in gold and silver. Just what we talked about yesterday, being in the right place at the right time. And that's how you can get rich quick, and it happens very seldom, and it happens to very few people, and very few of us get the timing of it as well. But you can get rich with gold and silver. And again, I've met people and seen people that have done it, but as far as the mentality of why you should own it, that's not it. You know, the reason you own gold and silver, again, is a hedge against a falling dollar. You know, that should always make you feel better when you look at this chart. Well, hold on, that's not the chart. Where's the chart I wanted you to look at? There it is right there. This should always make you feel better. I mean, it shouldn't make us feel better that the decline of the dollar, the buying power of the dollar, is just in a decline to where it's basically going to be worthless at some point. Is it going to be in our lifetime or not? I don't know. But this should be a comforting chart for anybody that's in gold and silver and precious metals. And all right, boy, I've gotten off the track and gone to several different places here today, haven't I? Markets are kind of sideways here. The Dow Jones, S&P, NASDAQ's the favorites of our country, and the Fed. Gold to silver ratio. This is something I haven't talked about in a little while. I like the gold and silver ratio. Currently, I think it's sitting at 83, mid 83 to 1 ratio. And here, for some of you new folks, I know most all of you know this, but there's some new folks here getting involved with precious metals, aren't familiar with this. A simple way to figure out the gold and silver ratio is, look, I'm going to do it with Siri here, is just to go 1,852.99 divided by 22.26 equals
on it.
Yeah, boy, computer slow. I could do it by hand faster than that. Holy
Still
crap.
on it.
That's pretty sad. Oh my gosh. All right. Anyway.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection.
Oh, geez.
Please try again in a moment.
Never mind. I'm sorry I even tried Siri. All right, let me use my phone. It's probably even better. 1852.99 divided by 22.26.
The answer is approximately 83.243.
So basically your take, it's 83.243 if you use these numbers right here. You're dividing 22.26 into 1,852.99 to come up with your gold to silver ratio. God, that took a long time. Sorry about that, folks. That should have been...
Sorry.
You are sorry. Siri just responded. Anyways, I'm sorry for Siri. No, not really. A piece of crap that is sometimes. But that's how you come up with your gold to silver ratio. The 30-second lesson turned into a 3-minute lesson there. And where are we going from here? Oh, well, where I was, gold and silver ratios. Take a look at the gold and silver ratios. I'm going to see a log scale, show recessions. Okay. And... typically, I'm going to say, let's just say since this era right here, what's the gold silver ratio? 44 to 1. This is about right before Nixon took us off the gold standard, which is something I want to bring up a little bit later in comment section, is Nixon. 24 to 1, right in that range, shoots up to 44 to 1. In the 80s, in the 45 to range to 1, but basically after 1980, the average seems to be in this. If you were to draw a line straight across here, what would your average be? I think it's closer to probably 65 to 1 is where it's been since the 1980s, which what's that? 40 years now, almost 50 years going on. Since the 80s, and it was typically been in that 65 to 1 ratio. Although you can see here, what is that, May? That's interesting too. December, what was happening in December 1990 that created a ratio of 90 to 1 with the price of gold? Actually, that's when I think we started to see the beginnings of our first bull market, was 1990. Again, bull markets in precious metals look a little different than bull markets in others. Well, not really. Bull markets last a long time. We've been in a bull market since 2016, I believe, with gold and silver, and we are still currently in that bull market. Although, these dips like this don't make it feel like it, especially when you go through periods of inactivity. But no less, I believe this was the start of our 2008 market right here. Was it 1990? Let me not speak too soon, but there is your 2020, March 2020, the highest I've ever seen the gold and silver ratio. Intraday was 122 to 1, and all of a sudden, and what was the price of gold and silver around that time? I forget exactly, but gold had made a substantial climb. This is the reason that we saw that 113, they're showing 113 to 1, I saw 122 to 1, and an intraday ratio at that point. But gold had just climbed so dramatically, and silver was still sitting at a low point. And again, I can't remember exactly where the gold and silver prices were on March 2020. We could go take a look thereabouts at that point. But what happened to decrease that ratio is gold didn't come down in price. Silver went up in price to meet that ratio, to kind of tighten up that ratio. And you can see it kind of went back down to about, 69, 70 to 1, where we have drifted up to this today, back to this 85 to 1. Which, again, this ratio tells me, in my opinion, based on historical stuff and the way I feel about the markets, looking at them daily like I do, is that the reason I believe that the ratio is too high right now for gold and silver. I believe, and it's not because I think it's because of the same reason is gold's high and silver's not getting, not matching gold's highness, not climbing up far enough. I believe that we're going to continue to see this gold to silver ratio climb right here, and if it starts going up 90 to 1, 100 to 1, I think we're back in this scenario right here. And my belief is that silver will lag behind gold quite a bit, and that's the reason we're going to see that higher gold to silver ratio. And again, what did it imply? What did it imply back then? It didn't imply that silver was too cheap. Gold was too expensive. I'm sorry. It implied at that gold to silver ratio that silver was too cheap. And again, that's why you saw the ratio tighten up here, not because gold fell, but because silver came up to that level where it needed to be. And I believe that we need to be in that average, I believe is in the 65-to-1 ratio. If you drew a line straight through here, and we're well above that, we're at like 83-to-1. So I believe silver's too cheap right now. Let's see what happens. Boy, how many times do I have to say that? Shift gold. I've been reading Peter Schiff did this great little YouTube video. It's called Why You Shouldn't Give Up on Gold and Silver. And more or less, he talks about the inflation rate, and he talks about, the reason, just to give a final assessment on the video, Peter makes a very, very good point, is the reason that we haven't seen gold and silver rates shoot up through the moon or go up substantially like we've seen a lot of other things is because the vast majority of the American public, the vast majority of people that run the corporations and banks and run the world, more or less, a vast majority of these people believe the Fed jawboning that they can keep this inflation under wraps, all right? And that it is transitory to some degree. That's a vast majority of the people that believe that, folks. I mean, you and I probably don't believe that. We understand that inflation's been around for a long time, and Peter Schiff talks about that, and will continue to be around a long time. My very first videos I started doing 2 years ago, I talked about inflation and how in the upcoming administration, the current administration right now, we are going to see an acceleration in that inflation rate, and Americans will start to notice that, okay? I didn't expect wars and stuff to accelerate the prices of oil and fuel and wheat and stuff like that. That's just like a black swan event. And even another reason why gold and silver should have increased dramatically. However, when 99% of the public and a large amount of people that run these corporations and companies believe that, again, the Fed has it under control, and they do. Currently, I think they're losing faith that the Fed has it under control, but they've had faith up to this point that the Fed has it under control. And the moment they lose that faith, they're going to be out of all these Fed QE-owned assets, and they're going to be out of these the stock market, the bond market, even the real estate market because of rising rates. I mean, once they figure out that it's not transitory and the Fed has lost control. But meanwhile, the Fed Powell's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's the captain of the Titanic, except the Titanic's been going down since 1913. This economic Titanic called fiat dollar has been going down since 1913. And we've had all different captains all along the way being able to jawbone everyone and saying, don't worry about it. The water that up to your ankles is nothing to worry about. We got it under control. In fact, it cools your feet. But Powell, to this day, even though I believe we're at the point where the Titanic, the passengers, which is the economy in general, the general public, the middle class, and everyone else, is up to their neck in water, up to their chest in water at the very least. And Powell's, they still believe that Powell's got this ship under control and that he can pump that water out. But you know what? When the crowd turns on Powell, when the crowd turns on the Fed, and when the crowd starts to realize that the Fed doesn't have inflation under control and it's here to stay and probably going to increase even further, and when this right here becomes more evident, the purchasing power of the consumer dollar by the average consumer. Remember, 99% of the people out there don't listen to videos like this. They don't understand the dollar. They don't know what a fiat dollar is. A lot of people don't, folks. But when that number of people start to see that what they can buy with their dollar declines over and over and over, there will be a decoupling as far as their mental processes go and their trust of the Fed. And that's when we'll see gold and silver actually probably take off. Remember, very small amount of Wall Street money is in gold and silver, very small amount, especially silver. Such a small market, that's why it's so easily manipulated. All right, well, I don't know what else to talk about. Oh, Jim Rickards. I wanted to bring up Jim Rickards' article, which is pretty good. The real reason why gold has stumbled. And it's kind of interesting because that's the general consensus out there by the general public when you talk to them about gold and silver. Well, it's high inflation. It hasn't done what I expected to do. But again, that's because a vast majority of the public doesn't understand right now that I don't think they understand the real situation we're in. They think that the Fed will fix it. Maybe they believe government will fix it, but that's going to change. And when that changes, it's going to be big moves in precious metals, in my opinion. Jim Rickards talks about this as well. Good article in ZH. And I want to read the last part of his article. I know I'm giving it away. I know that's cheap, but actually I recommend you read the article because he mentions a lot of good stuff up here. And what does he say? Look no further than the dollar. The real headwind for gold, and the main reason gold has struggled for the past 2 years, is a strong dollar. Now, when Jim Rickards talks about a strong dollar, he's not talking about that this chart, this graph is going up overall. You know what I mean? There is, if you kind of hone in on that chart, let's do a 5-year real quick. You see those little choppy points? That's the strength in dollar, and really all that means is that it's stronger against a basket of other turds. All right, I'm not going to get into that. You know that as well as I do. So it's been a stronger dollar, which I think is kind of bullshit. Stronger dollar, but I think that thought process, that illusion, that idea that a stronger dollar, when really all the stronger dollar means it's just stronger against other currencies, other turds out there, is really a false narrative that people have in their mind. Oh, the dollar's stronger. That's the reason I don't want to be in gold and silver. But Peter Schiff points it out real clearly. You know, in order for us to have a strong dollar, they're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to wind in all these dollars. They're going to have to wind in that QE. They're going to have to raise interest rates above 8%, which they're never going to frickin' do. 8% is what we're acknowledging as the CPI rate or something like that. I think Peter said 8.3. So I mean, they acknowledge, and it's probably higher than that. Inflation rate's probably much higher than that even. But do you see the Fed raising interest rates to 8%? Can you even conceive that? No. So all this talk about raising rates is just lip service to some degree, unless the Fed just entirely throws the entire economy and this whole country under the bus, including their fiat system, and rolls out some kind of new system. That's the only reason I can see. But they're not. Again, after all, the dollar price of gold is really just the inverse of the strength of the dollar. A weaker dollar means a higher dollar price for gold. A stronger dollar means a lower price for gold. That's the perception, that's the narrative, but that's not the reality. And Jim Rickards, I'm not sure if he believes that himself or not. Let's read on. It may seem paradoxical to imagine a strong dollar in the midst of all the inflation we're seeing, but that's the case. What's extraordinary over the past 2 years isn't that gold hasn't soared, it's that gold has held its own in the face of a persistently strong dollar. So that leads to the next question. I think that's a good valid point by Jim here as well. What's behind the strong dollar, and what could cause the dollar to suddenly weaken and send gold prices to the stratosphere? The strong dollar has been driven by demand for a dollar-denominated collateral, mostly U.S. Treasury bills, needed as collateral to support leverage on bank balance sheets and in hedge fund derivative positions. That's a mouthful for some folks here, but you know, he's talking about the dollar is, you know, it's driven by a dollar-denominated collateral, mostly Treasury bills that people need to build up their balance sheets on banks and hedge funds and stuff by, you know, the laws that they have to follow that, you know, make sure that in the event of a major collapse, they have something to back. Well, anyways, let me move on because that's a whole story by itself. That high-quality collateral is in short supply, partly because U.S. Treasury issuance is lower due to smaller than expected deficits. As banks scramble for scarce collateral, they need dollars to pay for Treasury bills. That fuels dollar demand. The scramble for collateral also speaks to a weaker economic growth, fears of default, decreasing creditworthiness of borrowers, and fears of global liquidity crisis. All right, we're not there yet, but we're getting close with no relief in sight. As weak growth turns into global recession, a new financial panic will be on the horizon. And folks, that's what I'm talking about, is once the general public starts to lose faith in the Fed, I mean, this is it in a nutshell, what I'm saying. Once they lose faith in the Fed, the general public, corporations, you know, and how are they going to do that? When they start to see that the Fed really doesn't have control over the rising inflation, and that they're not going to have control over rising inflation rates, and that this is probably going to get actually quite a bit worse. All right, once that happens, that's exactly what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about, where the financial panic will be on the horizon. When the majority of people, not us folks that have been saying, hey, listen, this is happening, this is going to happen, not people like Peter Schiff that's been talking about this happening for a long time, it's going to happen. When the financial panic sets in, that's when we're going to see gold and silver take off. At that point, the dollar itself may cease to be a safe haven, especially given the aggressive use of sanctions by the U.S. And again, something I've talked about for a long time. The worst thing the United States ever did was weaponize the one thing that the whole world loved, even our enemies loved, is the U.S. dollar. You know, the dollar had strength in the power that everyone loved it worldwide, whether it was Russia, Chinese, I'm sure Putin and Xi from China, if they're going to hold money in their pocket, they prefer to hold the dollars. I mean, maybe not in a patriotic stance, but the whole world loved dollars until parts of the world, Libya, Venezuela, all these countries, and Russia now, and China, looking at the what happened when the U.S. Treasury Department, the Department of Justice, and the administrations in the past started to weaponize the U.S. dollar against them. They all realized, listen, we can't trust the dollar anymore. So right there, we've lost half the world, folks. I mean, think about how many Chinese people that would love to own the U.S. dollar may not anymore, and probably won't. Based on the destruction of the buying power of the dollar. Well, anyways, something we talk about all the time. And the desire of major economies such as China, Russia, Turkey, and India to avoid the U.S. dollar system if possible. And I actually skipped Turkey and India here. Folks, worst thing, again, our politicians and our government dum-dums did was weaponize the U.S. dollar. Never put war hawks in charge of economies. Never. They see, again, it's like they're like the hammer. They see every problem is a nail. It needs to be beaten down. So when the panic hits and the dollar is deemed no longer reliable, the world will turn to gold, and that's exactly true. This is what Russia, this is what China, and this is what India, and this is what Turkey and all these countries have been seeing. The writing has been on the wall for them for a long time. They have built up their gold reserves dramatically. Look at Russia. Despite these sanctions, the ruble is sailing. I mean, you don't hear that in mainstream media, but pull up the page. Look at what the ruble's done. All right. Again, Russia's playing chess while the EU and the United States is playing a poor game of checkers, economically, politically, and on the war battlefield. Frustrations, boy, I went sideways there. Frustrations with sideways movement in gold prices is understandable. All right. This is the point of my whole video here, and why I did this video, and the whole, the whole reason I did this video, because I understand that people are frustrated with the price of gold and silver, and I've been talking about that this week. I've been talking about your expectations. Why did you get in gold and silver? Was it to get rich quick? But as Mr. Rickard says here, but behind the curtain, a new liquidity crisis is brewing, and he's absolutely correct. Investors should consider today's prices a gift and perhaps a last chance to acquire gold at these prices before the real safe haven race begins. Gold is so cheap right now, it's practically a steal. If Mr. Rickard said anything in this article that I agree 100% with, it is this right here. Gold, well, there you go. Gold is so cheap right now, it's practically a steal. And let me make sure this is Jim Rickards. Yes, it is. Okay, so I was attributing it correctly. Thank you, Mr. Rickards. Good article. And again, I recommend you folks read that on ZH. Well, GAT.org. I could go into some of this stuff right here, but Northwest Territory, good. Fraudsters need to spend a lot of time in prison. And Craig Hemke talks about when money dies all over again. I'm going to kind of skip over here, but you should have, if you're new to my videos, you should have GATA.org on your bookmark bar. They're the guys out there that tells you how this game is rigged right here and how to play it by understanding that you're in a rigged game, okay? That's the important part. As far as what to buy out there, listen, look at yesterday's video, the video for the last 2 weeks. It's the same thing for the last 3-4 months. My advice is to sell your silver eagles, trade them in for silver bars. As far as gold goes, there's no horrendous premiums out there. Gold bars are still the cheapest deal out there. I advertise to beat JM Bullion, APMEX, and SD Bullion on their prices on their more commonly traded, reasonably priced products. So if you don't live in South Florida, and I am the guy to see in South Florida, I'm bragging, I know. If you don't live in South Florida, find yourself a good local dealer, because not that JM Bullion, APMEX, SD are bad guys. I think they're good companies. I think they're solid. But the fact that you keep that money local in your state, your city, your town, whatever, even if you have to drive an hour or two to find a good dealer, keep that money local. And you're going to have to sell the stuff someday, so establishing a good relationship with a good dealer, someone you like, maybe you don't like them, but their prices are good. It's a good thing to do, man, really. I highly advise that. Keep that money local. Well, that's it. Let's take a look at yesterday's video, which is Gold is Global Money. Oh, no, that wasn't yesterday's video. I think yesterday's video, I'm sorry, that was the day before's video. And let me see here. Let me move on down here. Getting rich buying silver and gold. That was yesterday's video. I'd like to thank everybody that watched. I don't think I'm going to get into the comments too much here, but All right, I am. I can't help myself. 24 cases. Uncle Sam dropped me off in East Asia in 71. I learned about valuable precious metals. That's pretty cool. You're in that age group. You're a boomer, it sounds like to me. I am as well, on the lower, on the low. I'm the youngest boomer out there. And retired for 4 years. Congratulations. Health-wise and looks, I think I have no stress. Hey, good for you. Never been married. That could explain. No children, never been married. That could explain it as well. Thanks for watching. I appreciate that, 24. Wallace says, thanks. If the electricity goes down or internet goes, people worry about their crypto. We've been talking about that for a long time. Agree 100%, Wallace. If you're making, all right, Mr. Hilton, there you go. You got to go. It's not a real ad. That's just one of these. Look, contact such and such because he made me such huge, Roswell made me such huge profits. You scumbags, get the frick off my page. All right, there you go, removed. Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate the creds that you give me on this. It's tough every day talking about gold and silver. I mean, content is tough, I'm telling you, when it comes to this business. Especially, you don't want to just keep repeating the same stuff. And, ultimately, well, anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Invisible Stacker says 64 quarter would buy a candy bar and soda with change back, or not quite a gallon of gas in 1964, I guess. In 2020, a silver 1964 quarter will still buy a candy bar and a soda with change back, but the silver will, not the quarter. Because you can't buy a candy bar and gas, a gallon of gas for a quarter, but back in 64 you could with a silver quarter. But as he points out here, with the silver, you could still buy, well, hang on, for 1964 we'll buy a candy bar and a soda with change back, or not quite a gallon of gas. Yeah, that's true. A silver quarter will still buy about that same right there. So it's kept up pretty well with candy bars and gas. Thanks for commenting, Invisible Stacker. I appreciate you watching and you commenting. And by the way, folks, if you're not subscribed, I appreciate you subscribing to my channel and hitting that like button as well. I never say that. Once in a blue moon. So, why does gold get cheaper while silver gets more expensive on the same day? Should they move generally together? Not really. I never thought they should generally move together, but I think that silver's, again, if you watch this video, you know that, in my opinion, as the gold price gets higher and that gold to silver ratio gets higher as well, that I don't think gold's overpriced. I think silver's underpriced. So silver's probably a better deal, and silver usually plays catch up with gold. JVF Mastering wants me to do evening videos with a bottle of booze and get drunk because he thinks that I'm really funny when I'm drunk and I'm talking about gold and silver. I think I'm funny too. And my girlfriend's over here waving her thumbs up. She thinks I'm funny when I'm drunk. Well, I don't know. She thinks I'm annoying when I'm drunk. Dog will hunt precious metals. Hey, thank you. Appreciate that. Dog will hunt. Keeping what you have. It's about wealth preservation. I agree 100%. Heart of Texas says it is a time in history when speaking the truth and go to jail for 3 years. I know. Be careful. They're coming for us. No, we're coming for them, Heart of Texas. Don't forget, you got the roles reversed there. We're coming for them. Thanks for watching. Welco says, a bot beat me. Oh, no. Sorry to hear that. Never let a good crisis go to waste. That's right. Rahm Emanuel, who was the mayor of Chicago, I think, wasn't he at some point? Obama's right-hand man, but yeah, never let a good crisis go to waste. That was the, a quote I was talking about, and that was the man that said it. Baltimore, yeah, I'm not going back. I was supposed to be there this weekend, and I just couldn't make it. Having the COVID a couple weeks ago, and that freaking head cold a couple weeks ago, and oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm supposed to be in Baltimore. If you're looking for me in Baltimore, I'm not there. Sorry. I will be at the next shows though. Heard you using the word stupid and the word people, and what you get is stupid people. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll keep listening. Thank you, appreciate that. Let's go. John Smith, appreciate that as well. Tree Climber, what's up? Andrew. I watch as many folks made it like a bandit in the property market, so when we hear going to the moon, I know it's discouraging, going to the moon. I don't like hearing that term, gold and silver going to the moon as well, but listen, it's not really, it is going to go to the moon. Gold and silver is going to go to the moon, but the point is, how long does it take to get there? So will you be alive when you do hit the moon? I think so. I think we're going to see some stratospheric prices at some point. It's just a question of when. And as you know, I've talked about many times, and I talked about yesterday's video and the day before, it's timing. It's really about timing, being in the right place at the right time when it comes to those those huge moves that you see. All right, thanks for commenting. I appreciate that, Andrew. Helen says, Tona Haas had a branch restaurant. It was wonderful. Oh, okay, you're talking about up in the Ocala area. Yeah, I got to travel up where it's beautiful. Ocala's beautiful. So I do beat the SMN bullion. Yeah, and I bet they like it too, Ned. Right on, right on. Thank you. I say clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am. Puppets and cartoon characters all around us, sir. Clayton says air traffic controls. Yeah, I thought so. Air traffic controls do have to speak English. It's an international language, okay? And my gosh, I forget what context I was asking that in. But no less, thank you for the comment there, Clayton. Michael, what's up? Time for my sip of coffee as well. And oh, that's awful. That's awful, Joe. But it is a Florida joking. You know, anybody that lives in Florida jokes about that. Sea cows, the other white meat. Well, hey, thanks for watching. Think for yourself, question authority. You know my reasons behind that, and it's a very deep meaning. I think that a quote that you should pass along to your kids, people around you, and other is to ask them to think for themselves and question authority. Well, that's it. This is Brian Kuzma with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. We are the place to come to if you live in South Florida and you're dealing in precious metals, rare coins, paper money, and other stuff as well. We have an estate business too. But again, precious metals, I advertise to be APMEX, JM, and SD bullion, and your local dealer should too. We're open 10 to 4 Mondays through Fridays, so if you can get in, buy some gold and silver from us, we're happy to take care of you. Thanks. Have yourself a good evening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.